just like we normally do in our engagements, I request any volunteer to give us a short prayer before we proceed. Any?
Let us pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, thank you for this opportunity presented before us to have this engagement, that we should have our eyes open and our understanding made clearer about this subject. And I pray for the engineer who is leading us through this process, that he may expound everything as he ought to, and may we benefit to the fullest. It's in Jesus' name we pray and believe.
Amen. So thank you for turning up. My presentation today is writing winning engineers registration technical report. And the emphasis is on winning, because our objective should be that when we write this report, it should go through faster, just like our quality policy. Okay. And that date there is intentional. I was supposed to present this, to make this presentation around that time, but Joseph decided to go into hiding and disorganized all of us. So the background to this presentation is that often as engineers, including myself, we have problems writing this report. I'm concentrating on the technical report because I believe this is where is it the meat or the bone? The meat is, or is it the bone? The career report is straightforward. And in any case, this is what is evaluated for you to be admitted to the register of engineers. So, the first two issues I want to tackle is, this is an engagement. It's a presentation, but it's an engagement. You are free to interrupt, you are free to discuss. It's really an engagement between ourselves. Why have I prepared this presentation? It's on two folds. One is, as a registered engineer, I have a responsibility to promote the profession. And I do this in two ways. One is to disseminate information. Two is to assist or mentor any young engineers, let me not call them young engineers, but growing engineers who want to become corporate engineers or registered engineers. And of course, three, as now head of the business development division, I also have an obligation, or let me say we have an obligation to grow the pool of experts in PROME. It's very important that we have this pool of experts whom we can field in our proposals instead of going outside. Because whenever we leave at the boundaries of this organization and go outside, it means that we lose some profitability. Okay? Instead of using our own experts who know how we operate, who are part of our team, okay? We have to go out sometimes, all because we have failed to do what? Register. And yet we have opportunity to do so. I don't know what your expectations are. Those are my expectations, that by the end of this presentation, at least we should have demystified what writing this report is all about. I don't know what your expectations are. Could we share? What would be your expectations? You don't have any? Kenneth, what are your expectations?
Same as yours.
But Kenneth may say that tomorrow he wants to submit his report. Okay. The second issue I want to talk about is, whenever we write this report, that question, why, is the most important question. And in PROME, we are lucky. we are in a situation where we are dealing with projects all the time. That's one aspect. Projects that get implemented, procured, implemented, and finished. We are also in a situation where we have registered engineers being part of these teams of these projects. Okay. And the third thing, of course, some of these engineers are not only registered, but they also assessors. So we have the opportunity to really write these reports. We have no excuse, really. You can imagine an engineer seated in, I would say, XZ local government. That engineer is unregistered. He's the head of the engineering department. Okay? And he's a very important person in the local government. Everybody who comes to him says engineer advisors, and he's not registered. And he has no registered engineer to go to mentor. He cannot go to the town clerk. He cannot go to the district chief, to the chief administrative officer. They can't help him. So the only place he has to go is to look around, maybe go to the Ministry of Works or Housing or whatever, to try and get somebody to mentor. But here we have mentors, and we sit with them every day. So let's make use of these mentors to help us write this report. Now, this why is a common issue. I assess reports, and it is a problem for those who don't deal with projects. It's also a problem for us who deal with projects, because we write projects. If you look at the way PROME writes projects to its clients, we write to knowledgeable clients. So we will say we use the Ministry of Work specifications and that kind of thing. But when you are writing a report to be assessed as a person fit to be a registered engineer, if you say, I use these specifications for this manual, answer that question. Why? Why did you use these specs and not the others? Why did you use these specs and not the UK ones? That thing is always missing. And it's very common for us, especially when we've gone up in consultants, we write our reports. We did this, we did that, we did the DCPs, we did that, and that. We are an expert speaking to an expert. We are not speaking like a candidate who is applying to be, or who is demonstrating that they know the engineering logic, the engineering knowledge, and the reasons why we are taking those decisions. Okay. So that question is very important. That's why I'm highlighting it. Whatever you say in your report, try to answer that question. Do we have any questions on this?
We are good.
We are good to go? Okay. Please don't forget that issue. And the next one is, why do we register? Why are we bothering to register? Of course, there are benefits. Okay? I've already talked to some of them. Professional status. I've talked about some of them. Professional status. You are registered in genuine engineer, you consider genuine engineer. Employment prospects. Of course, if you are registered, you can employ yourself. Also, PROME here, wants to retain you and other consultants. But the most important thing here is that you have a legal status. You can sanction engineering documents. You can sign against them. Okay, and they have got the legal status. Okay. And if you notice that for most of our requests for proposals, where important decisions have got to be taken, they want registered engineers. For example, materials. They want a registered engineer because that person is going to take decisions regarding materials. Okay? And affect the structural integrity of the project. Okay, foundations, pavements. The structural engineer must be registered. The RE must be registered. Measurement, okay, these days they say registered. Some time back we would not insist because we know that the RE, the measurement engineer, reports to the RE. But these days they also want to register measurement. Okay. So you will notice that for every area where you have to take an engineering decision, the requirement is for somebody to be registered. Of course, there are pitfalls if you are registered. If you act carelessly, you can be sued. Okay? For your act of commission or omission. Okay? So there is a penalty to pay. So once you are registered, I'm not saying that you should also be careless once you are not registered, but once you are registered, you should be aware of those consequences. And I'll give you an example. Quite soon after I registered, I got a colleague, very close colleague, he's a structural engineer. But for some reason, he took time to be registered. And he came to me, he had a project, I think it was a mosque. He said, I've designed this mosque. Could you sign on these structural documents for me? I said, my competence in structural engineering is very low. I'm very sorry, you are my colleague, but I'm not going to sign. Okay? Because what will happen? The man could, and he's a brilliant guy. He could have designed well. He gives it to his client. The client employs mediocre contractors, and the thing falls down. You know what happens? You start with the design. You find yourself drawn into things that you don't understand. So once you get registered, please use that title carefully. Any questions there? So these are the requirements for being a registered, for applying to be a registered engineer. Sorry to take you through this background, but it is important for us to know where we are coming from and what our objective is. The requirements, and I got this from the UIPE website. These days, the UIPE and the ERB have got what they call a joint assessment. So you submit your report once, it is assessed in the UIPE, and then you don't bother for ERB. For us, we had to do it twice during my time. You submit a report to UIPE, it is assessed, then you are forwarded to ERB. You submit the same report or a different report, you assess there separately, and then you are entered into the register. But you know, after a lot of arguing, when you have these two processes for two professional engineering bodies, okay, one is regulatory, the ERB, the other is professional, and they are manned almost by the same engineers. Why should we subject our growing engineers to this two-tier process? So there was a reform, and now we have one. So you'll find that I will normally be referring to the UIP website. But what is here, you'll also find it in the one on the ERB website. Okay, they say that you must have had a minimum of 2 years training as a pupil engineer. Okay, that title pupil engineer is a public service title. It means apprenticeship, really, after you graduate. It's like internship. So 2 years working under the supervision of a registered engineer, which all of you here have. Then a further 2 years in a working position of responsibility. Of course, as you work, you're given more and more responsibility. So at the end of 4 years, they expect that you have gained experience in project design, documentation, construction, supervision, operation, and maintenance. I'll explain why I put that in red. The key issue I want to talk about here is that when we sit here in PROME, the onus is on us as growing engineers to see that we are appointed in position where we can get experience from all those four. Okay, let's not sit comfortably in design. You know, I'm doing my design. Or let me not sit comfortably in construction supervision. Okay, because then you miss out on the other. Of course, all of the two have documentation. All those two, 1 and 3 have got documentation. Now, 4 is in red because often, if you look at our projects, we don't have this aspect, really, where we go out and operate and maintain. We have very few of these projects. Nonetheless, as engineers, there are certain things we can do in our design, construction supervision, to cater for this operation and maintenance. We can actually write it about it. In our designs, we can make sure that we do design, we do make designs that will minimize the need for operation and maintenance. And I'm also sure that if you do your report, you can include a study for operation and maintenance. You may not get the full marks, like a maintenance engineer in Ministry of Work or in Ministry of Works or in a district local government who is doing maintenance as part of their daily duties. But I'm sure that you'll get some points. If we go to bullet 3 there, I brought in those bullet 3 and 4 to illustrate something. They require us to submit a 2,000 word typed career report on our training and responsible experience. Okay? I went into the internet and tried to find out what does 2,000 words mean. And I found that it's an 8-page double-page document. Okay? And the technical report should be 4,000 words, which is 16 pages, double-spaced document. I want to emphasize this because as an assessor, I have seen volumes. Somebody brings you a report this big, and you don't know where to start. The intention of the people who frame this, I think, is to tell you that the issue is not in the volume, but it's in what? In the content. So we find somebody on a design report, or in a design assignment, he's writing about the Usmid Cluster 5, how they design the drainage, they use this formula, they design the pavement, they use those formulas, they design the building. Another one will only pick a junction and design a junction. And that's what he said, there's a problem here, there's conflict of traffic, that is the problem. He have identified the problem. So what is the solution? We are going to design a junction, an engineered junction. Okay. So now we look at this solution. Of course, somebody will be looking at options. Is it a simple T junction? Is it a simple cross junction? Is it a signalized junction? Is it a roundabout junction? Is it a signalized roundabout junction? Very many options. Is it a grade separated junction? All those are options for solving that problem. And then you will say, for this problem, I think I will choose this option. Then the why comes in. Why? Of all these options, why have you chosen that one? The justification. Okay. Then you say, okay, the traffic does not warrant a grade separated. Neither does the lab. Okay. Maybe the economics don't allow it. You provide junctions, but often people, you see they jump into design. They say, here we designed the simple T junction, we have this radii, and this, but he has not explained why. Of all the junctions that are possible, just that junction. And these are things that the assessors do. You are engineering judgment. You will see it later as we go. Of course, after doing all this report goes to the, what do they call it? There's a committee there, membership, something like education, membership, education and training committee in UIPE, who get this report, they look at it and see that you have fulfilled all those requirements, then they send it to 2 assessors. Why do they send it to 2 assessors? Of course, because assessment is also subjective. Okay? When they send it to 2 assessors, most likely they will get, what do you call it? If they combine the assessments, they will have got a good judgment about this, engineering judgment about this submission that you have made. And of course, those 2 experts may also, those 2 assessors may be experts in different fields. For example, if you design the signalized junction, you may choose an expert who is good at signalizing the programming so that they're able to assess that aspect. So these assessors will assess your report, and if they generally feel that you have done well, they will report to the committee, and the committee will call you for an interview. And of course, the shortfalls that they may have noticed in those reports, I'm sure will form part of what? That interview. And And I'm telling you, if you have not done this report yourself, you appear before that board, interview panel, you will start fumbling. But if you have done the report yourself, I am sure that you'll be able to answer most of those. So that's all. Any questions? No questions.
Yes, from what you said, it seems to me more biased towards design.
What I have mentioned?
Yes.
I only chose one aspect
One aspect.
to illustrate.
Okay.
I just used it to illustrate. But you also have to write. I didn't talk about operation and
For
maintenance.
example, if it comes to construction,
Construction supervision, yes.
if you're working on a larger project,
Yes.
would you also identify a specific area that you feel is more tentative, being that you're limited with the volume that you're going to work with?
I think you see you follow the steps I mentioned. The engineering problem. Identify what is the engineering problem. What are the solutions? What are the advantages, disadvantages? Then your choice. And then you document it, price it, quantify it, okay? And of course talk also about its maintenance and operational aspects. Even in construction supervision, I've just been talking to Steffi about this issue. She said she has another meeting, she was not aware she received this late. And I was telling her that Steffi, you were a safety expert on a construction supervision. Do you know that you can write about safety management of one site on that project? Just one site. Okay. One complicated issue, one complicated location. How you solve it. And you give it to us. Instead of writing about the whole project from A to Z, of course you can't be involved in the whole project. The issue is if you can clearly identify an engineering problem, okay, the options for solving it, your choice for that option, okay, one or two, and then you do the documentation. Because what they are looking for, what we are looking for, is your engineering judgment, your engineering competence and engineering judgment in solving an engineering problem. Okay, so somebody may write about the whole project, and then you say, but I don't see the involvement. He says, yeah, me and the RE, we are doing this, me and the material engineer, we are doing that, me and, but you don't see, you cannot put a finger on what that candidate was. I don't know if I'm clear on that. Any other questions on this? So my approach to this presentation is not to really talk about a lot of things, but to go straight into how these reports are assessed. So that when you are writing your report, you have to have this at the back of your mind. How are these reports marked? And that's the bulk of this journey. Now, I don't know if you've gone to, may not be very familiar with your computer. But if you go to the UIPE website, okay, and you look at assessment of engineers, there is a form from which I grew this. It may have changed slightly, but this is how the report is assessed. So we'll go through it, category by category. So the first issue there is technical content. Okay? And they will see the first bullet there. Of course, all these bullets share those 12 points. Okay? In that form, they do give the allocation of those 12 points. So what the assessor will be told to look for is how the candidate has applied their engineering principles. Okay. And I'm assuming that you have got assessors who have been trained in assessment. Okay? Because I'm also able to say this because I underwent a training in assessment. Okay? So, what are some of the engineering principles that you'd be expected to present in your report? If it's a drainage issue, you know those formulas, don't you? If it's a pavement issue, you know the pavement formulas. Okay, materials issue, the engineering formulas that you will be able to present. Okay. To demonstrate your application of those principles. Okay. You have a scientific approach, is there a scientific approach, is there a systematic approach? You remember the steps I told you to follow. Yes. Okay? So is there a logical flow from A to Z? Okay. How do you arrive at the solution? Did you identify the problem? Did you go through the steps until you get to the solution? Is there a logical flow? Okay. Not for you to get to a report and you start reading it and halfway, you are lost. Where are we going? Okay. Have you used the analytical methods? Are you computing? Do you have graphs? Nomograms? Are you using standards? Okay. What design concepts are you using? I'll say this in the next slide because I want to expand on this. Do you have drawings? So these are the things we do every day. So how can we fail to get those 12 points? And yeah. The reports we do, don't we have these things? So how are we going to fail to get these 12 points? At least let's get 10. Okay, so the design concepts. Okay. What design concepts have you included in your design? And these are the things these are the things we do every day. Are you aiming to get value for money? What are the boundaries of your design? Okay? If it's a concrete mix design, what materials are you going to use? Have you limited yourselves? Do you want to use as much as possible the local available materials? What is the method of manufacture? Okay, is it ready-mix concrete? That will affect how you design it. Is it mixed on site? Okay. Do you want a sustainable product? Okay. What is the linkage of this design to those issues? And I'm sure we do consider all these things in our design. Of course, I put there something about use. I don't know if you know this in Akawa, pedestrian bridge. There's also one at Kisui. Whenever I go to Nakawa, that place is very dangerous because of the traffic. So I always use this bridge, this pedestrian bridge. But it has two problems. It cannot be used by a person as a wheelchair. So is it useful? Secondly, it has got gaps, okay? So most ladies don't use it because when they are climbing up, there used to be boys who would be down to see the ladies. So use. That's why I brought that bridge there. It's a very good bridge. But people don't use it. Okay. Maybe apart from it. So it is what do you call it? It's a gender insensitive bridge. Okay. How are you? Have you addressed the environment, the social, climate change, budget? Okay. what are your outputs? So these are the concepts, the ideas that form your design. Okay. Okay. So the second aspect that is evaluated is your depth of knowledge. Okay. So as I mentioned, I did talk about the designs, about standards. There are various standards. So in your introduction to standards, you have done a literature review, okay? And what is the best practice in the area? Okay, if you found an engineering problem, okay, you want to first start by knowing what is the best practice, okay, from which to draw knowledge, okay, so that you know that what address your design, to tailor your design to solve your problem, okay? What are the options? Okay. What is the justification for the methodology that you have used? Okay. If I've used a mixed design, or if I've used a mechanistic design, why have I used that? For example, if I'm working on a road. Okay. Or perhaps I've used two designs that I have done one to check one against the other. Okay. I may use the mechanistic, then I will use the empirical, and then I check what is the justification. I'm using two, you know that the two check each other, and I'm more confident about the result, justification. And of course, there is analysis and detailed discussion. I don't know if you want me to expound on this. If anybody has any questions, please ask. Because I'm just going through the grid, okay, of the assessment. I'm just trying to explain. But these are the things we do every day. If you look at our reports, these are the things we do. And if you write a report that is 250 pages, I'm telling you the assessor is going to have problems also locating some of these things. Now, this is normally where we have problems. Involvement of the applicants. So, the issue of the applicant's concept, originality. Often this question is asked. How can you determine originality from report? There's something funny about reports. And I'm sure even us here, we do read reports from other consultants. Somehow when you read a report, you sometimes find a disconnect. It just creeps into you, and then you begin to wonder, is this the person who wrote the report? Are they really the authors? It happens. I don't know how, but I'm very sure that you too, when you are reading these reports or any literature or anything on social media, sometimes as you read, you begin to wonder, is this person really the author of this thing, or just got it from somewhere? But as an assessor, you are not only supposed to use your heart, okay? You're supposed to read and see that the candidate has demonstrated that this, okay, this is their concept. You know, engineering is based on principles. We are not saying that you reinvent the wheel, because the wheel is already what? Invented, okay? But how you apply these principles to solve a problem will demonstrate your originality, okay? And you can see. I'm always using the same cycle, okay? How did you identify a problem, okay? You might be 8 engineers on a construction supervision project, okay? You may be 4 inspectors of works, okay? Not all of you will perceive this project the same way. Not all of you will perceive the problems the same way. Because problems will arise, and you have your unique method of overcoming these problems. And this is where originality kicks in, okay? And I'm sure you do experience these. There are problems that arise, and people go around them in different ways. So you see there we have three, which is uniqueness of the solution, innovativeness. Please, if you have innovated, please blow your trumpet there, okay? Because it helps build on that originality, okay? Of course, coherent and logical flow. If there is no coherent, you lose there is a disconnect, and you cannot attribute what is being written to the author, okay? Even if you read, often I've seen people who try to say we did a design review, okay? Then they go and reproduce a design review by a certain consultant or by their own company, okay? This design review is done by PROME, okay? If it's done by PROME, it is done, it is finished. But as a growing engineer, did you agree the positions of PROME or the engineers there? If they said yes, for this we chose a box comfort. Is it really a box comfort that would only work optimally in that place? Couldn't there be any other solution? So people have done a design review, and for you to say, for this I would have chosen this, and you go ahead and you justify and you design it up to the end. Yes, you've taken part in a design review now as yourself. You are critiquing the design review that was done by PROME. Okay, so you must demonstrate originality. But someone will be there and say, oh, we did this and we decided to build so many box culverts, so many cells, 6x4 and that kind of thing. Okay, and as a person who is assessing, you see that really there is no involvement. Somebody was involved as a part of the team, but where is their engineering involvement in this issue? You can't point the finger at it. So even if a design review has been done, it does not stop you from critiquing that design review and actually coming up with your own, which you think is better or could be better in the long run. Any questions on this? We are clear?
Yes.
So in terms of involvement, it's good to demonstrate your involvement in all these, if you can. Okay. Sometimes we meet projects at different stages, but what I've not even added there is, which is missing, is procurement. Procurement is also important. Okay. It may not be mentioned here, but please don't forget it. Okay. So please demonstrate your involvement in this. Often when you may come into a project at a later stage, but does not stop you from going back and reading, okay, and forming your own opinion on how the feasibility was done, okay, on certain aspects of the feasibility, and making your arguments on whether you think that is the correct way, or something, perhaps something else should have been looked at. Okay. Implementation, of course, that is the supervision, monitoring and evaluation, okay. This one is a difficult one. Monitoring and evaluation. Perhaps somebody could talk about aspects of it during this defects liability period, especially people who have designed the pavements, or people who have designed hydraulic structures. If you've seen them go through the season, okay. Maybe you could talk about evaluating how they have performed. Okay. Even traffic, for example, if you predicted that traffic would be flowing like this, okay, when the project is designed, when you go there, how is it actually flowing? Okay. Is it different from what you anticipated? How different is it? Okay. But in real aspect, monitoring and evaluation is normally long term, and you'll be lucky if you have happened to be part of the monitoring and evaluation team or mission. But it doesn't stop you from monitoring and evaluating your own designs when you have the opportunity. Okay. I've talked about operation and maintenance. Very few of us actually experience this stage. But operation, yes, during ERB you can see how a road, for example, a bridge or a structure is operating, and parts aspects of maintenance. So what I recommend is that in your report, at least you provide a schedule, okay, for the little maintenance that you have gone through, talk about it, okay, and the issues that are arising and how the design will have to address these better. For example, if there is a lot of silting at a certain location, so the design have addressed it, okay, and then you can include a schedule of maintenance beyond the 1 year, okay, maybe 2 to 3 years, okay, and also cost it if it hasn't been done in the project. Or if it has been done, you can look at it and review and see if actually that the decisions that we are taking there you feel are the best, okay, or something else could have been done. Any questions? I want to talk about this issue, position held on a project. There are marks for this. And you'll find that we often give these organograms in the career report. But now when we come to the design phase and the supervision phase, we forget to give an organogram to show exactly what position we were in during our involvement in the project. So you go there and you cannot tell clearly, okay, for some reports, not all. So you have to go back to the career report and try to extract that information from there. But remember, assessors are busy. They don't want to go this way and that way. But they want to find the information where it should be. And of course, in this, when you do that organogram, clearly show the engineers under whom you are working and the registered. Let me talk a bit about management and finance. It's a broad project. Managerial ability. So now you wonder why these people want me to talk about managerial ability. But I was being managed. Okay? I was being managed. I was also supporting. What do you want? They want me to write about? But it's possible that you are working in a team. Okay? And indeed, for example, design. In design, you have a design team. And in construction supervision, you also have a design one, and then you have a construction supervision team. Okay, and the teams are supposed to work concurrently with contribution from each member. So definitely you have an aspect in making sure that this team succeeds. Are you a team player? That's what we are looking for. How did you participate in growing a competent team? What was your contribution? And you have a contribution as an individual. What key decisions did you take? Now we're looking for leadership. And leadership, you don't have to be at the top. Because leadership are things that you do that other people emulate. Okay? For example, if you are recruiting, if the contractor is recruiting, say, laborers, okay, could you have an involvement? Could you think that you could add value to that recruitment in terms of gender, in terms of involvement of the local community? Could you have advised the contractor? Yes, it is his business. He's the one who's supposed to recruit his workforce. But maybe you can advise him. Okay. And when you organize yourself, when you are working in your team, for example, you are the head of that team, how do you go about delegating work? Is it possible that you can see the leadership for a week and somebody else is the leader? See, today, this week, you're the head of this inspection team. Growing competence. So these are some of the things that one would put here. Okay. Project costing, I don't want to talk about is too much, because with this we do every day, okay? Maybe value engineering. Value engineering is any alternative solution which you think would have worked better, have given a better value for money. But project costing, I'm sure, is something that we do. But I've just put those down to give you aspects of what you can use to demonstrate project costing. Financial management, could you have participated in certification? You have cost control methods, okay? Timeliness of decision is a cost control method. Okay? If you delay in making a decision, there is money lost. Okay? Whenever you delay to make a right decision, money is lost. So these are some of the things that you normally demonstrate. And for us, we are lucky in PROME. We have for example, we have a project control document where most of these aspects are outlined. Okay. And the aspects that fall under your jurisdiction, you can talk about those and how you help your team, your maybe head and your subordinates fulfill those aspects of the quality assurance system. That demonstrates your involvement in that. Financing options, that's why I put a question mark there. It's not something so easy to talk about, but maybe this project would also have been financed differently. We are used to the normal financing of the client having money, but is it possible that this project would have been financed differently? You could have a discussion in that aspect. Okay. I was working in Union, and by the time I left, actually, we had decided that all bridges will be designed and built. We didn't see the logic in Union designing bridges and letting them out, because it was really a waste of time. The contractors could easily get a design team, design a bridge, construct it. So could there be a different method? For example, if you have a bridge that has been built conventionally, prepared conventionally, maybe there could be a different option to finance. Any question on this? These are things that we do every day in our reports. But still you go to a report and you find that somebody has just glossed over these issues. And yet as a supervision team, for example, or a design team, you have to consider each of those aspects. So if you are designing a project, how do I ensure that the contractor will meet these aspects? What innovations have happened? I know that operate, for example, in the use meet project. Okay. In the previous projects, we left the issue of the environment to the contractor, and we put in a clause that the RE could stop the works. Practice dictated otherwise. It was very difficult for an RE to stop progressing works because of various pressures due to environmental issues. So you will call in the contractor, and the contractor will ignore. He continues doing the works. Okay? So you as RE, you want to stop these works. Okay? And the client is here, he wants to spend the money. Because when he doesn't spend the money goes back. Okay? And yeah, okay, some of us are not even environmentally sensitive. Okay? These issues of environment, social gender are becoming more and more at the forefront. So one of the innovations I saw with the USMID project is that now we put in a performance guarantee for the contractor meeting environmental aspects. If he does not meet them, he forfeits it. Okay. And then a provider would understand the pain of losing the money. So they are obliged, they are obliged to comply. But I'm very sure that on most of our projects, we have these issues. We have these issues, especially occupational health and safety. People are crying for helmets, They're crying for vests, they are crying for shoes, even where helmets are provided, some people don't put them on. So, as a person on that project, how did you ensure that, assuming these things were provided, how did you sensitize your workers to understand the importance of these aspects they are putting? Because some of these vests are hot. Somebody is dealing in hot weather, they need to put on a vest and then they make that. But it's something I put in red there. I know all these things you can talk about because they are very common. But there's something I put in red there. Most people don't talk properly about that climate change. What are these things that we do on site which will demonstrate that we are trying to comply with this issue of climate change? Give me an example. Because it's often intertwined with environmental issues, but just give me an example on things that we do or that we try to, supposing we are designing the project. What things would I consider if I want to reduce the carbon footprint on a project? Joseph?
Maybe you consider recycling of material.
That's one.
Recycling
Of materials?
that's in rehabilitation.
The design. The design, we decide that instead of say cutting the spoil, we recycle as much as possible. And some of these materials is semi-processed, so you reduce on the energy needed to work it, or even bring it into place. Okay, that's one. What other examples can we have?
Just,
Okay, yes?
yeah, just ensuring, for example, the contractor's machines that he uses, they shouldn't be so old to the extent that they will damage.
Even if
He
they
has experienced that before.
even if they are old, they should be serviced.
They should be serviced.
They should be
yeah.
serviced so that you can get the best operation you can out of the energy that he uses. The computers that we ask to be procured, are they energy saving? The printer, you just need to talk about a few of these things and you get those marks. But that aspect is often not talked about. People lose marks on that issue. Okay. Any questions on this? So there are also marks given for report presentation, on the logical structuring of reports. Those of you who handle those with project, we got comments from the client and it was made about this. Okay. Is there a table of contents? Is there an executive summary? Are the tables properly named? Are the figures named? Are they cross-referenced in the text? Because you read and you find a table, you've not talked about it. Where does this table jump into the report? This kind of things. Okay. Have we quoted the references? Okay. Do we have acronyms? Have we stated them? Do we have appendices? Are these appendices cross-referenced in the report? Okay. We use the figure in appendix 2. So appendix 2 must be there. Okay. Sometimes the appendices are not named. Somebody puts them behind there, thinks that the assessor will go for them. Sometimes you're lucky sees them, sometimes does not see them. Okay. These references, somebody says Ministry of Works, special space. You're supposed to give the full title. Okay. The title, the author, the year it was published. There is a standard for that, I think, especially those of you who have done research. But you can also look at the technical material, you will see how they do these references. So basically, that's logical structuring of the report, so that things can be found. Okay, if you talk about drawings, the drawing should be separate, they should be named and numbered, and they should have an index. Did I talk more on this? This is normally what we do. We often get comments from clients on this issue. This is what I talked about in the beginning. That being in PROME, we are very privileged. Okay? We are involved in your projects. The people who have never had a project in 8 years, they are in office, they are doing managerial work, producing art, do this, send this car there, fuel for who, for the RBC. There's no project that they can talk about. For us, we have several projects running at the same time. We have a presence of registered engineers, some of whom are assessors. There are people who write reports and they don't even have computers. They don't have printers. They can't download research material. But if you want to type TZ manuals, you can get them. We have an IT. We are in an IT environment. We can download. We can research. We can know what the South Africans are doing, what the French are doing. So we are in a privileged position, a highly privileged position. And these offices are open, I think, 24 hours. So what are our targets? Registration. My belief is that if anybody has met the requirements that we talked about initially, I don't know which slide that was, that slide, that you have actually had 4 years. You should really target to register maybe by the first quarter of next year. That should be what you target. First quarter of next year, we should at least submit our reports to the UIP. So basically, that's the end of the presentation. And as you see, I've just gone through how reports are assessed. I've not discussed anything else. So that when you are writing your report, you are looking at this assessment and how you think your report will be. Yeah. Okay. So thanks very much for listening to me. I hope this has been a fruitful presentation. I await your questions.